up, Angel?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty good.
Oh, that's good. Good. Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about a couple of things.
Sure.
Because I know you believe in, 'cause I think last we talked, I was talking to somebody else, and I believe you also said you believe in this common ancestor
Yeah.
in evolution.
Well, Lucy wouldn't. Well, Lucy is a common ancestor
Hmm.
of us and nothing that
Hmm.
is still alive.
Hmm.
Our immediate
Hmm.
ancestor that wasn't us
Hmm.
appears to have been Homo erectus.
Hmm. So this common ancestor, because I just read research on it that it's now the ages moved back between 7 and 9 million. Scientists don't know if it's 7 and 9 million years ago.
I've always heard seven.
But it gave you a range from I check it. Let me read this. Where did this go? Where did it go? Here it go. It's the latest research I was reading. It said to get you to here it go. Um, When they applied the new race to the history of all three species, they calculated that humans and chimps split earlier than expected, at least 7 to 8 million years ago, and possibly as early as 13 million years ago. They estimate the
Oh, that's
split
pretty old.
between gorillas and the lineage leading to humans and chimpanzees between 8 to 19 million years ago. I mean, so you believe that, I mean, there was some hybrid animal that some mixture of human. First, you got humans and chips, 7 8 million years ago, or maybe 13 million years ago, and then another. They got to go back to another
No.
between 8 to 19 million, because what happened is they came up with this gorilla DNA that threw everything for a loop. They little story for a loop, and now they have let me just read you this one part. Although 70% of the human genome is indeed closer to chimpanzees on average, a sizable minority of 15% is in fact closer to gorillas. And another 15% is where the chimpanzees and gorillas are closest. So now they had to go back and have a quadruple common ancestor between gorillas, chimps, humans, and bonobos. I mean, this whole uh, it's like something out of Aesop's fable. Like there's some sort of hybrid common ancestors. This
The, the common
this
ancestor wouldn't have been a hybrid.
this centaur. This
Centaur?
this
What?
this centaur common ancestor. I mean, what is it?
What?
I mean, I'm looking for
The
somebody to tell me. I'm getting all these wild guesstimates: 7 to 9 years, uh, 8 to 19 years, 13 years possibly. All these guesstimates. I mean, what?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
what you have to do. That's what
what
you have
is
to do
this?
before you have the
What is
evidence.
this hybrid animal? Is it from Middle Earth? Let
No,
me ask you, what's the
it would have
rationale
lived
behind
in
the common
Africa.
ancestor?
So
What's the
whatever the
rationale?
com
I'm gonna ask you.
okay, the whatever the common ancestor between humans and chimps is, it definitely wouldn't have been a human chimp hybrid because it existed between 7 and who knows, 10, 11 million years ago or whatever. Humans, Homo sapiens, have only existed for a few 100,000 years. So it's not like the common ancestor split and immediately became chimps and immediately became humans. There were tons of other hominids and whatever between that common ancestor and us. There were the Ardipithecines, there were the Australopithecines, and then there was the Homo habilis, Homo
Mm-hmm.
erectus, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was the hobbits, the
Did you say the hobbits?
satyrs, the centaurs,
There
all
aren't
these,
any centaurs.
all these,
Nobody believes in centaurs.
all these hybrid animals, and all these, nowhere to be found. It boggles. But what
We
I want to ask you,
there
what
are
is
there are
what is the
tons of hybrid
rationale?
animals that exist.
what is the
There
rationale
aren't a
behind that?
huge number of hybrid animals, but there are tons of hybrid plants. Hybridization is really common in the plant world.
Tell me what is the rationale behind the common ancestor? I'm kind of curious.
The morphological similarities between us and chimpanzees and the genetic similarities, the
But I'm saying, what is the
overwhelming genetic similarities.
I'm saying, well, what is the rationale? I mean, why is it included into? Why do you need a common ancestor why do you need this hybrid? I mean, is it something that's necessary? I mean, where did it come from? Who came up with
Well,
the idea?
organisms come from their parents,
Mm-hmm,
and their parents come from the generation before that, and they come from
mm-hmm.
the generation before that. So like, yeah, that I mean that's how it works, but
But
it's not like a like evolution
mm-hmm,
isn't a purely philosophical logical argument
mm-hmm,
like a lot of arguments from God aren't empirical or
mm-hmm,
scientific. They're just like a logical necessity, like the,
mm-hmm,
first mover or whatever. But that's not what evolution is, because that's not what science is.
mm-hmm. I mean, it just sounds like it's just like a bunch of wild guesstimates about
They're not
some
wild guesstimates. Like
middle.
way before we unlocked the secrets of genetics,
Mm-hmm,
scientists already knew
mm-hmm,
that, or let's say predicted
mm-hmm,
that humans and chimps were the closest living relatives to each
mm-hmm,
other, and then gorillas a little bit less so, and
mm-hmm,
orangutans a little bit less so.
mm-hmm.
And then the genetic evidence perfectly bore that out.
But what I'm telling you is there's no need for these Middle Earth creatures, these common ancestors that nobody has ever seen. No, it just
What?
gives you all they do
If
is give you
organisms change over
guesstimates.
time, there have
Let,
to be common ancestors.
no, it doesn't, because what you have is, let me tell you a simpler story that makes more sense to me, that that bears out about what we see in the and you don't need all these centaurs and satires and
Nobody believe. Don't
look,
straw man the theory of evolution by saying centaurs. Nobody,
what
no evolutionary biologist believes in centaurs.
look what here's a more simpler explanation.
All right, go
They
for it.
have 36 phylum, 36 body plans.
36 body plans.
Phylum, 36 phylums. You know,
Oh,
chordate
okay.
phylums. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
36. That's the body plans that came around the Cambrian explosion. In the Cambrian time, that period, these body plans came up. It's called phylum, and it's 36 of them. 36
Yeah.
phylum. And so, if you have the genetic code, which I think is highly intelligently designed, you have a genetic code acting on 36 phylum. You can have variations of all of these body plans to give you all these variations of species. For instance, I write computer programs.
That's evolution.
I write a computer program. If I write a computer program that says, and I put in say 30 different house blueprints, like a cottage, a colonial, a ranch, and the computer program, because it's intelligently designed, can give you variations of all these different blueprints and give you a whole bunch of different blueprints for houses. And I don't need any hybrid uh, uh, animal from Atlantis to come up with a theory. All I
No,
need is intelligence.
nobody.
All I
I
need
don't
is
believe in Atlantis.
all I need
Why
is
did you?
an intelligently designed code. You get
Sure.
all these estimates, 8 to 20 years, 7 to 9 years, some
Yeah.
hybrid. Well, where is it? Let me see it. Well, we don't know what it is, but it
Well, we
existed.
haven't found it yet.
Yeah, we don't
We
know.
didn't have Lucy either until
We
the
we we
1923
we,
or whatever that was.
we don't know, but maybe listen, the game you could play with the genetic code, because it's so much information. I can look in the genetic code, for instance, and you could take an intelligent person, look at the genetic code, and say, okay, these set of genes they closely match these other set of genes that's for growth of human being growth, for the size of a human being, but they're not being expressed right now. But what if years ago, they when they were expressed, they turned creatures. We had giants because of this lengthening in the gene. It was expressed. So let's look at mutation rates and calculate. when we might have had giants on the earth. And then you say, well, oh, between 40 and 50 years ago, because if this genes was expressed, the mutation rates tells us that we can have giants on the earth. Between
I've never heard a scientist say that, ever.
where is this in the fossil record? Well, it's not in the fossil. We don't have any evidence of it. But 40 to
What
50 million
scientist
years,
says that there are
this could have
giants?
happened.
I've never heard a scientist say there were giants. However, Bible thumpers who
But
insist that the
all I know, my point
Nephilim
is not I'm
existed
saying there's
do say
giants.
that.
I'm not saying there's giants. All I'm saying is that
Neither do evolutionary
no, but all I'm saying
biologists.
is that you could come up with any sort of ridiculous guesstimate by looking at the genome. You could say
No,
some
you
hybrid
can't.
from the line of witch in
Not
the wardrobe.
rationally.
You could say Mr. Tumnus lived 7 to 9 years ago, and somehow
Angel,
split
I
into
agree.
any of
If
the.
you're not being logical or scientific, you can take information and make it mean whatever you want it to mean, which, for example, to me is
Sure, you
how
can.
people interpret the Bible and say that it proves scientific things. And I don't think that's even remotely true.
No, I
But,
think the Bible
anyways,
does actually. The Bible, I think
no.
it actually
Okay.
more
I don't want
more
to
than
talk about
what.
that right now. What I want to talk about is,
Mm-hmm.
to me, it sounds like you agree. So you're way different than most of the religious thinkers I talk to, because you agree that the universe is billions of years old and Earth is billions of years old.
Yes.
But it sounds to me like you believe that there was this Cambrian period, which was a little over 500 million years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds to me like you think evolution does happen because a very long time ago, there weren't any humans, obviously. There weren't even any dinosaurs or butterflies or anything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
there were all those phyla, the body plants from that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So then, how did the organisms of today get here? Because I would say we're the descendants of those different organisms from the past. So we must have evolved. So it sounds like you believe in evolution, but you think there's an intelligent designer behind it.
Yeah.
So is that I don't want to mischaracterize you, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
asking, is that like what you think?
Yeah. It's an intelligent designer behind it, and basically what I think is that,
Okay. Well,
and I
then that
said
means that humans evolved.
I don't have any problem with evolution. It just didn't happen naturally. I don't. It came because it
But
shows that.
okay,
Let
go
me make
ahead.
this point real quick. It shows that it comes from an intelligently designed code where you have coded them. Like I said, you have information coded on the sequence of DNA that that's code for say valine or these 20 amino acids, and we have no explanation from anyone that supports the natural interpretation of why valine is encoded for
Right.
four different codons, three-letter codons, and why is that
Okay.
redundancy in the genetic code or proofreading
Here
or any of these other things? There's no how did it get coded with information in the first place? And then
okay.
let me make this last point.
All right.
Let me make this last point. I think that uh, what evolution explains, what Darwin saw, was just the result of the code. But then he came up with this whole theory, and he said, if you don't find, but was shocked when he didn't see all these intermediate varieties that he was looking for. We still haven't found all of these intermediate varieties, but
We've found many, not all of them.
that blows up not transitional fossils, intermediate varieties. It blows up his
That's
entire
what that
theory.
is.
It blows. And this what you know who Alfred Russel Wallace was.
Yeah.
So you agree that he's just as important as Darwin.
Um not I don't know. Darwin's been more influential. Darwin was way more prolific. Like he published far more books and things like that than Alfred Russel Wallace. Russell Wallace didn't believe in sexual selection, I don't
Mm-hmm.
believe. But he had his own. He had a couple of unique ideas of his own. I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember any of them off the top of my head, but
But you do
Darwin's been
know what?
far more
Mm-hmm.
impactful and influential.
But
But
hold on,
we
but you
would
do
have
know that he.
gotten basically the same theory if Darwin never existed,
Yeah,
because Wallace came up with pretty much the same idea.
yeah, exactly. He came up with. He actually influenced Charles Darwin to write the Origin of Species,
Yeah.
some of his early work. So he came up
Well,
independently with natural selection, evolution. But you know why? You know about Alfred Russel Wallace, but most people don't. Most people I talk to about evolution, I say Alpha Russell Wallace. I get who? The reason why you don't hear much about Alpha Russell Wallace is he was a spiritualist who said that it just couldn't explain things like higher forms of consciousness. And the intervening spirit had to intervene at least three times. And the Bible talks about creation three times. In the first verse, 21 and the 27th verse. But the reason why you don't hear about Alpha Russell Wallace, but the reason he's been stricken from the record, and if you don't dig and look for him, you won't find him, is because he didn't agree with Darwin on certain things. But they wanted to give you a narrative that Darwin, he came out, his whole theory blows up when you look at what he said about intermediate varieties
We
and you look
have
at and you
tons
look at
of those.
adaptation, his whole theory blows up.
No, it doesn't. We have tons of intermediate
No,
varieties.
you don't. You have some transitional fossils which you don't have.
That's what an intermediate variety
No,
is.
what Darwin was talking about when he talked about intermediate varieties, he was talking about in terms of adaptation because uh, he compared uh, artificial selection to natural selection. So he said, well, naturals, the same thing that artificial selection does, which selects the traits, can be done by artificial selection, but it's going to be nature where the traits come
Yeah,
from.
I know.
But Darwin thought that. Hold on, but Darwin thought that when you, for instance, when you have the Maine wolf, when he evolved,
Angel,
adapted.
we're talking about transitional fossils.
No, we're talking about intermediate varieties. You want
Yeah?
to see you want to see different intermediate varieties. Like the Maine wolf evolved these dark long legs. You should see dark long legs, short
Yes.
legs, three legs, blue legs. You should see all these in it because it's
What? No,
natural.
you
It's
shouldn't.
nobody selecting the traits. So that's why you should see these intermediate varieties.
Not
But you
like
see a
that.
one-to-one
That's
correspondence.
ridiculous.
That was Darwin's whole theory is
No, it
ridiculous.
wasn't.
Exactly.
Darwin never
You
said
you
if
you
there are animals
honestly
with black legs,
you
there should
agree with
also
me,
be
right?
animals with blue legs and red
Hold on.
legs and yellow legs
You
and green legs. That is not at all a good reading of the
you
theory.
you agree with me then that Darwin's theory is ridiculous
No, it
because that's
isn't.
exactly what he said. You agree
I
with
just
me?
explained how your characterization of it was ridiculous. I we're, I want to talk about something, or I just want to bring something up which is connected to what I was asking you earlier. So I'm actually super confused because earlier when you were saying where's the chimp human hybrid, where's the common ancestor, blah blah blah, you said that you agree that evolution happens, but you're
Mm-hmm.
asking these questions as if it doesn't happen and there's no such thing as a transitional species. So I don't understand how you can believe in both of those things
No,
at the same time. I
I'm,
don't see how you can think,
but
yes, millions of years ago there were
mhm.
different species, and over time, and those are our ancestors, therefore species do change over time, but
Mhm.
there's an intelligent designer behind it. And at the same time, there's no such thing as a transitional species fossil. We don't have any. Where's the one for humans? It doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
it
Like
does.
it's like you're saying, I don't get that.
It's non-existent. But what I'm saying is simple. Is that
You have
that
an intellectual schism here, I
no,
think.
not at all. But because what I'm saying is, you have an intelligently designed code. You have an
Sure.
intelligently designed code in the genome that has information encoded. We had a Harvard
Yeah.
scientist encode 70 billion books on the DNA.
Yeah.
Digital. We have
Okay.
digital. We had a hold on, let me finish.
I'm not
We had
asking
a
you about
recent.
I'm not
We had a
asking you about DNA. We
but
can do this with
but
two very simple questions. Only two
mhm.
questions. Do you think humans evolved?
Yeah.
Then why are you going to all these links to be like, where are the transitional fossils? Where's the blah 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 blah? Because when you do that, it's as if you're insinuating we didn't
No,
evolve.
but what
So
I'm
that's the
saying
thing
is,
that I don't get at
let's be
all.
clear. This is like I said. I think there's an intelligent design interpretation of evolution, of evolution, and a natural interpretation of evolution. Just like you got different interpretations of quantum mechanics, and I think an intelligent design interpretation of evolution is 110% superior. I think a natural interpretation of evolution gives you these hybrid animals, gives you a bunch of nonsense. It has no it just can't happen. It's illogical. So I think I look at evolution. See, the difference is most people, when they come to these debates, they're debating usually creation versus evolution, because evolutionists want to act like evolution means natural, but it doesn't. I think intelligent design explains it. An intelligent design interpretation of evolution is far superior than a natural interpretation. I think a natural interpretation of evolution doesn't explain the evidence in any way, shape, or form.
That's fine. I mean, I knew that you thought that, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
asking you why you're pressing me for how come there's no transition? How come we haven't found the missing link between humans and chimps? When you agree that we did evolve, you're saying the things that people who think the Earth is only a couple
Mm-hmm.
thousand years old and no organism has ever evolved says, but
Mm-hmm.
you claim like
I'm
it
asking you
doesn't
these
make any
things, though.
sense. That's
No,
the
I'm asking
schism
you
I'm
these
talking about.
things. I'm asking you these things because you accept the natural interpretation of evolution. Unless I'm wrong, you think it occurred naturally, correct?
Yeah, but we
Well, that's
apparently
why
we
I'm asking
both
the
agree
question.
that humans evolved
Yeah,
somehow.
but I don't
So I
think we
don't know
need.
why you're asking me for
But
evidence
but
because
I don't
the
think we
evidence would
need.
support your claim too, but you're acting like this is a gotcha against me, the
I just
naturalist.
don't think we need a hybrid animals. They guesstimate saying they existed seven. They may have existed 7 to 10 million years ago, or 8 to 19 million years ago. I don't think we need a guesstimate that we have some sort of hybrids that nobody knows or nobody has seen.
They
I mean,
wouldn't have been
it makes no sense
hybrids.
to
I don't
me
know why you're
that,
saying that.
but it makes no sense to me that you need all them hybrid
They're
animals.
not hybrids.
Did you see the recent study with lizards that happened on the island?
Where their guts changed?
Where their guts was changed,
Yeah,
and
they
the
they
liver,
didn't
hold on,
hybridize.
the lizards rapidly evolved.
Yeah.
The changes should have taken place millions of years ago. This from National Geographic. The changes should take millions of years, but these creatures are doing it in mere decades. This
Well,
this
yeah,
is
because
this
there's
is
a lot of
intelligent
pressure.
design. This
That
this
doesn't
there's
that
no
doesn't
way
prove
it can happen
intelligent
this
design.
fast naturally. This
Well,
is
it
what the
did
artist.
happen naturally. They
Hold
they
on.
evolved naturally. Their
Oh
genes
no,
changed
but
naturally.
this is from National Geographic telling
Yes,
you
I know.
these
I've
changes
read that
should have
article.
taken millions of years, but these
No,
creatures are doing it in mere decades. They're doing it in mere decades because of intelligent design,
no, they're
not
doing
because
it
of a
in mere
natural
decades because
interpretation.
they're doing it. They're evolving quickly because there's enormous selective pressure to evolve. Like when environments are stable, then there's no reason for an organism to change, and so the rate at which they change into different forms is very slow. But these lizards didn't change into a different form. They just
Mhm.
they developed valves in their
And,
gut to
and they
better
evolved
be
in
able to
there.
ferment because
Mhm.
they eat more plants. I think I've read that article.
Yeah, but
That
they did.
bookshelf that is
Mhm.
7 years worth of National Geographics. I've read this thing you're talking about.
And it supports intelligent design because it
No, it
happened
doesn't.
quickly.
No, it
It
doesn't.
happened quickly because all you need is a variation of the phylum. Chordot, we in the Chordot phylum. All you need
Yeah,
is a
the
variation
variation
of the
comes from
phylum. Hold up.
the
All
the
you need is
variation comes from random genetic changes.
but listen, all you need is the code acting on the phylum to give you quick that to adapt fast. You don't need some sort of random blind adaptation with random mutations. How can you have
But that's how it
random mutation? It
happens.
makes no sense. National Geographic is refuting you. The
No,
changes should have
no,
taken
they're not.
mid.
Because National
Listen to what it
Geographic isn't
says.
saying God showered his love beams onto the DNA and
Listen
that's
what.
specifically why the
No,
DNA changed. No,
no.
we know that DNA, like there are copying errors, there are
Mm.
just random mutations that happen, and they have unpredictable manifestations. Some of them happen to be beneficial, and then that's what drives further change to occur. I mean, the changes in genetics that have happened to those
Mhm.
lizards,
Mhm.
there's no arguing that it wasn't naturalistically.
It is. It happened because of the code. The code is intelligently designed.
Okay, the code is
Listen,
that like okay,
let me read.
again,
Hold up.
you
Let me
agree that
read you what.
evolution
Hold
happens. You just say
up.
that a very long
Let,
time ago an
let,
intelligent designer set up the code, but then the code goes about changing by naturalistic
no,
mechanisms.
the code is designed to adapt to its environment down to extremophiles. And what you see in
Yeah?
what you see in the record And what you see throughout the fossil record,
Okay.
you see when an organism needs X to survive, when it needs X to survive, it evolves X. There is no intermediate varieties of Darwin trying not to evolve. Darwin said there's no purpose and no direction to evolution. So there's no direction of these random mutations. So you should get all of these different traits evolving, and just the one that happens to be best for the environment ends up surviving, spreading throughout the population via reproduction. But you don't see all of these
Yeah.
traits. You see the exact trait the species need to evolve. That's intelligent design. That's exactly what we
No,
see
they
with
don't.
these lizards. It
No,
says lizards,
all
it
the
says
other variations die
the changes should take
or just
millions of
become more
years,
rare.
but these creatures are
You've
doing
you've
it
you've
mere
taken the
decades.
conclusion and then just stated that happened on purpose or something. So, anyways,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that God makes a rock appear in his hand. That's
Mm-hmm.
him. I wouldn't call that intelligent design, but it's a miracle, right? And God did it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then God puts the rock on the ground and it rolls down a hill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is the rock rolling down the hill a miracle?
Yeah, the rock rolling down the hill is a miracle. Everything
But
that
it's rolling
everything
down
that
the hill because of gravity.
no, but again, everything that happens comes from God.
Right,
Everything.
but so
I mean,
nothing has ever naturally
we could
occurred.
go
Well,
now. We could
then
go talk. We
then
could talk
then you
about.
have to say that nothing has ever
Hold on.
naturally occurred.
No, we could talk about gravity. If you want to go back,
I
then
don't
we
I
could
don't want to
talk.
change the I don't want to drift away from the subject here.
Oh, we could talk about
You have to say
Girdle
that
had not
nothing
even
natural has ever occurred if that's your
no,
position.
no, and you know why?
Okay,
We
well if
can
that's your
point.
position
We
then
can look.
okay, I just wanted to try to understand it.
Yeah, we can look at Gödel's theorem, which illustrates this perfectly. You know what Gödel's first and second incompleteness
The
theorem
incompleteness theorem or what?
is? First and second.
I don't know what those are. I don't really well whatever. Go ahead.
Now, Gödel's incompleteness theorems really blow things out of the water.
For evolution?
Stephen Hawking wrote a paper. He had a lecture rather, and Hawking had a lecture called Gödel and the End of Physics. And the end of physics. Why would an atheist who believes in a physical world talk about the end of physics in relationship to Gödel?
I don't know what
Or
he meant
when you
by
talk
that or
about
if
what
that's actually what he
Einstein,
said, so I don't know.
when you talk about Einstein, he had a book with Einstein called when Einstein walked with Gödel, and Roger Penrose also talk and look, if you want to go there, I could talk about explain Gödel. What Gödel actually said is in his incompleteness theorems. If you want to switch that topic,
Not really.
okay, or maybe I'll just come back another time and go over that. How's that?
That's cool.
That
I mean,
good?
you'd be way better off talking to a mathematician or a physicist about Gödel because I'm not. I'm just gonna sit here and be like, okay. So it's not my area really. There was one other guy I wanted to try to talk to real quick though, so I can't be on live for
Okay,
that
well,
much
definitely.
longer.
Like I said, it's always good talking to you. And
Oh yeah, for sure.
like I said, remember that it's intelligent design interpretation of evolution is far superior to a natural interpretation of evolution is a
I
fantasy
will.
that belongs in Middle Earth. So
Okay, and
have a
centaurs
good night.
and centaurs.
Have a good one.